And just welcome everyone again. For those that don't know me, I am Sandy Benavides, your counselor coach for ESC Region 11. And I know because we get guests from all over the state, Region 11 is in actually White Settlement, but most people would probably recognize Fort Worth more so than White Settlement. And so we're right on that border of Fort Worth and White Settlement, and we're so happy to serve you. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's do that. We will get started. There's so much today. I swear, it's like I try to plan these out like within an hour, but the content sometimes is so rich, it's a little bit hard. And so today we're going to talk about how to use screeners as a resource tool. And screeners are really important. Or we've known about screeners. In the counseling world, we've known about screeners, especially mental health screeners, but we've never really used them as tools. And some of that has come from just fear of, I don't know how to use this, nobody's training me, or comfort, right? That we don't feel comfortable, again, because we're not trained and we're not guided and given the green light to go ahead and utilize these things. And so when I was developing your summer sessions, I really was thinking about, one, the feedback that you gave me, and two, what's coming down the pike? What can I anticipate and then be proactive, right, instead of the reactiveness that we usually live in the world of counseling. And so and I've said this a couple of times in several of the presentations that I've given since March, that TEA is working on, has developed the mental health division, which is a huge win for counselors. Trust me, I absolutely love the mental health team at TEA right now. They are incredible, and it's the first time we've really had representation at the agency. Y'all, believe it or not, this is the first year we have representation. So prior to this year, and I've been at the service center, 2 service centers over the last 4 to 5 years. And prior to this year, I had to speak to a fine arts consultant at TEA in order to get answers to questions. I know, love her. She's fantastic. She knows so much, but we aren't fine arts or anywhere close to that. And so I think all of us could agree that the deliverables and support has been limited for the role of the school counselor historically at TEA. And I think they're just like every other organization, that everyone quite doesn't get what we do. And that is definitely the work. That is something that hasn't changed kind of in every organization I've been a part of. But finally, with that representation, finally they heard our feedback. They've built that small team and they're really doing some great stuff. So when I got access to the pre-release of what's coming, hopefully it's set to launch this summer, no later than August. One of the things that I absolutely loved was that they had selected mental health screeners as a resource tool for us. And so I thought, what we do now in the summer, right now we have the time. I'm going to say it honestly. We have the time to sit here and learn and go deep into the work. If you give me a release in August, in the midst of everything that's to come in August, you're not going to be able to do much with it. So my thought is, knowing these tools are coming, let me start training you on these tools so that when they do release, it's not oh my gosh, I didn't know. I wish I would have known this information, or you're scrambling to try to figure out what it is that you can do and use. And so a lot of this, I've put a lot of thought into everything I provide you because I think someone has to, and that really is my role. My role is to serve you and make sure that I educate you in a way where you feel confident, prepared, ready to take on the challenges that are going to come. And so again, everything I build is around that thought and philosophy. So these things are coming down the pike. What I will say is I'm going to share a draft version from TEA. So what that means is it has not been formally released. It means it is subject to change. But because they knew, and I've been asking for this since March, they knew I was going to be doing this work proactively, and they know kind of what my vision is and what I'm doing kind of statewide. They agreed to share it with me so that I could do this work. So you all are the first counselors in the entire state to see this. And so it's so exciting to be able to reveal something of this magnitude before everyone else gets it. So what I do need to talk about before we really get into looking at the screening part is we need all of the pre-work to screening. You know, the screeners are almost self-explanatory once we get to that section. But what's not self-explanatory are all the rules and things that we need to consider prior to utilizing these as tools. Remember, I'm not here to tell you that you must use these, neither is TEA. What we are saying though is here are some resources that could be helpful to support your students. And these resources were out way before COVID-19. So this is not in response to COVID. I saw the pre-release in January. And so this has already been building. They've been growing this portal that's going to be released to all of us for at least a year. I'm just getting kind of early release information, again, to strengthen my program here and to strengthen the counselors that I'm working with. Please feel free to ask your questions throughout the session. I'll be watching those. And as always, you will get the presentation for this work here as well. So I really loved this quote here. Students are routinely screened for physical health issues like vision and hearing. However, emotional or behavioral health issues are generally detected after they have already emerged. It is time for that to change. And a lot of my presentation was built off the SAMHSA programming, which is aligned with the Texas Human Health and Resources Division, and they are also aligned with TEA. We have a representative from Texas Health and Human Services in TEA as well. And so a lot of this is coming from the research that they released a couple weeks ago when I was in kind of a training about this stuff with TEA. And so again, I think this statement is so powerful. You know, we look at vision and hearing, but we totally negate the whole concept of the mental health and how we can screen without being diagnostic. So again, I'm going to just repeat this disclaimer that your choice to move forward with mental health screeners or using them as tools has to come from a collaborative decision through your LEA. And so when I say LEA, I mean your learning education agency. That could be your charter, your district, your public school, your private school. That's kind of the general term for all of the school types that we have here in Texas. But I am not telling you you must use these. I am not telling you that this is mandated. Absolutely not. When we are having a mandated conversation, I will tell you it's a mandate. This is a resource, and make sure that you follow your policies, procedures, and regulations of your LEA. That's super important here because we're kind of treading in an area we've never really gone before, especially not with the direction, you know, from TEA. And so I want to be very clear about what we're discussing today and how you can use this work. So, you know, the first thought you should be having, for those of us that aren't quite versed in mental health screeners, I know some of my LPCs are going to be, some of you have used them in other non-school settings, but some of our new counselors or just our counselors who've never really thought about this before, you know, you may be wondering why are these a good idea, or how is this really going to help us? And so again, when I was sifting through the research to build this presentation, there was some alarming stats represented by CASEL, who, you know, I am a follower and believer. They are the leaders in social emotional learning and health. And so 1 in 5 students, y'all, 1 in 5 students will experience a significant mental health problem during their school years. We know this, we see this. And 70% of those who need treatment will not receive appropriate mental health services. That is a reality. That is the world that we're living in. How many times have we referred a student or made a recommendation or given community resources and the family does nothing? I'm not saying that The screeners are going to be an end-all be-all solution, but maybe by screening and capturing more students who need help, we're going to have more families that actually get the help for their student. Or we look at our mental behavioral teams, which I will talk about in a little bit, and design our systemic approach to that social emotional learning or that mental health support, systemically across our district or our campus. And so there's a lot of different ways we can use this data. It's not meant to kind of be a pass off like, oh, okay, you've screened here. Yep, we're going to send this letter to a parent and move on. It's not meant to be used like that. It's meant to gather data to make decisions that are best for your students. And many times we don't have the data. Sometimes mental health can be, I don't want to say the term abstract, but it doesn't always have concrete data points, right? And so we must be using data to drive our decisions, and screeners can be a method to collect the data for us to check that temperature and pulse of our campus. How much support do we need? We don't know. We won't know until we collect data. We can't, sometimes I see, that we just kind of get an idea and we run with it, and then it doesn't work out. So you have to stop and think, why did it not work out? And many times it's because we thought the idea or the initiative was what we needed, and really it's not. And I think when your initiatives don't work, you do have to go back and determine, what did I use to gauge this? Did I take a survey? Did I collect data? Or did I just assume? And assumptions are so dangerous, because we can put so much energy into an assumption and it's not going to produce what we want to see. But this is the reality. And I know you don't need stats to tell you, but we've got to start thinking differently. And I know data and accountability can be kind of some ugly words for us, but in order to develop programs where students thrive in all aspects of their lives, we have to use data to start that movement, build the momentum, and make the change that we want to see. So this is kind of, this again was from the SAMHSA research on, developing that continuum of school mental health services. And so at the very core, and we've seen pyramids, in every single capacity, there are pyramids. We think the RTI process, the MTSS process, the intervention process, all of these processes have pyramids, but I think pyramids are really great symbolic representations to help us see kind of the base and how we grow to get where we want to go in education or in mental health. And at the very base of this continuum of mental health services, again, based off that National Association of School Psychologists, school-based prevention and universal interventions. And when we use terms like universal, you're going to hear concepts or discussions about universal screeners. Those are like general screeners that kind of fit most students or most situations. Early identification of students with mental health and behavioral health concerns. Again, so we figure out what's happening, take the pulse, take the temperature in our school or in our district. Then we can see, okay, we can figure out these students fell here, these students fell here, this is how our school fell overall. Then we look at that targeted school intervention. Most likely that's going to be kind of our at-risk students. And I don't know about you all, but every school I ever worked at, I think we were at 85% at risk. That can be a large population. But if you're not in a school that has a large population of at risk, being targeted and intentional is going to make all the difference in those at-risk students. It's going to make a difference in all students. Then we have that higher tier. Okay, so once we've attacked and been targeted, we still have students with chronic or severe problems. Then we're going to look at that intensive school intervention with community support. This may be, sometimes we're going to have to, maybe this is a referral thing. Maybe this is going to go, the 504 route or the special ed route. Because when we can't support a student, given all of these other metrics, then we need to even explore, you know, that level, that possibility that there is something deeper wrong. And so we continue up that pathway, kind of that response to intervention methodology. And then that continued intensive community interventions with school support. Very much like the CASEL programming and the SEL concept, this movement is an everybody job. It cannot just be the counselor. You all, my friends in this room, you cannot carry the weight and the magnitude of what this work is alone, nor should you. And I know many of you often feel alone working through this kind of work, but now is the time to speak up and say, hey, this is what's coming down the pike. These are some supports. This is a way that we can address these issues systemic and holistically. But don't try to carry it alone. And I'm not saying that when you speak up and say something that someone's going to get on board and listen to you. But I will say, if you remain silent, no one will ever hear you. And so we've got to start having crucial, powerful conversations with our leaders. Otherwise, you as the counselor carry so much of the burden when it comes to mental health. And y'all, it is, our jobs have become insanely crazy, especially over the last few years with the issues that you're dealing with. I know that I've been out of the game per se for several years now, but I know because I'm still connected to you all and you share those stories with me. I want you to be counseling leaders. You don't need a fancy title for that. You can lead in any position that you are in. But if there's any point where I want you to feel empowered to really have this conversation, the time is now. Everyone is getting a reset. COVID, one of the things that COVID has brought us that is positive is this concept of a reset. People are open to new strategies. People are looking for solutions. I know a lot of your administrators and directors, I'm having those conversations with that higher leadership as well. And so this is the time to propose something new and have all of the research and data backing you. I try to make your job easier as best as possible by arming you with the knowledge and information that you need to carry on an initiative like this. I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry, I just want to empower you. That's really the focus of a lot of the work that I do with you. And so, you know, according to the University of Maryland Center for School Mental Health, which is associated with TEA, the University of Maryland has been doing lots of presentations with them on the ESC side of things. And that's, you know, so again, I'm pulling all of the resources they're using to use so we can use the same language. Mental health screening is the assessment of students to determine whether they may be at risk for a mental health concern. Screening can be conducted using a systemic tool or process with an entire population, such as a school student body or a group of students, such as a classroom or grade levels. If the thought to do this on a big scale is too big right now, which is okay, we can do something smaller. Do a pilot group, do a little focus group. I use those terms. They don't have to be as fancy as pilot or focus, but they're telling you here, it's okay to start small. That's what I want you to get from here. It's okay to start small. We may need to do this for, you know, this small group and then move to the larger audience. But here, the key word is may be at risk for a mental health concern. Our, I don't know what happened there, but our screeners are not diagnostic. Our screeners do not say you have a problem. Our screeners say the likelihood that you have an issue is this at this percentage point. Remember, you know, anytime you do an inventory, a personality inventory, a screener like this, it is a snapshot. When people take tests, it's a snapshot of what is happening in that person at that given moment of time. And so that's why we have to always remind people that work with screeners that it is not diagnostic. It literally is a snapshot of what that person answered on a particular day. Let me see what I wanted here. I think I've pretty much covered these. So the only thing I do want to say about, because I think, again, I just said this, is certain screeners, and I'm going to go over the general screeners for the most part today, a couple of the general ones, but certain screeners do say within their screening document that you must hold a certain certification or license. Okay, so when you're looking at screeners, make sure you're reading through all of the documentation to ensure that, you know, do we need a qualified certified person to do this, or can anybody do it? The ones I'm going to show you today are anybody, because I want to make sure, you know, that I show you that there's some great ones that are, one, free, and two, anybody really can do them. And so we'll get there in a second. Again, here are the purposes of screening. I don't want to go through necessarily all of these because I want to make sure we get to more of the meat of this. But it's here so that you can have that intellectual conversation with your administrator, with your leadership. And so again, you know, if we work to support the mental health of our students, and I know I'm going to say something, I'm preaching to the choir, the academics will come. They will come, but not until we address the social emotional health of our students. And this is a way to jumpstart that work. Okay, so the parent involvement piece of this. So remember, when those of you that have attended my social emotional needs of students session a couple of weeks ago, you know, I went into the CASEL program, you know, a little bit more in depth, and talked about how at the core it is the educators. We work on the educators, we work, you know, then on the students, we work with the parents and community. It's this collaborative approach, and this should be thought of in the same mindset. I know I know the struggles of trying to bring parents into the equation. The ones that don't need it are always there. The ones that need it are never there. It is what it is, but we must make an attempt to include them in this work. We're going to need all of us as we go into next school year. We're going to need every resource person that we have access to, including our parents, to get our students where they need to be. And so having an intentional plan with your parent involvement and including them in this work is only going to make it stronger and better. The most scary thing for parents is to think there's something wrong with my kid, and that's why you're trying to screen them. We've got to get away from that concept, but we only can get away from that if we educate them and let them know, what are we trying to accomplish here? And that can go out through a myriad of ways. It could be, you know, a release letter. It could be a release video. It could be, you know, in person if we get to do that eventually. Either way, they must be thought of as part of this system. You have to have that parent buy-in and support in order for this to go smoothly. Parents are the decision makers for their students. So utilizing a mental health screener does require a level of permission. How you approach it, though, is different. And so why I put here the opt-in versus opt-out concept. Y'all, we do this all the time. Think about all the initiatives we put into a school, and then we release a letter that says, if you don't want your student to, this is what our plan is for the year. If you don't want your student to participate in these activities or in these events, you know, please let us know by, or whatever. The way you do an opt-in or opt-out is your choice. I will say that generally we're going to have higher leverage with an opt-out because parents generally, if you have to opt in, it is more difficult to get those signed permission slips. You're really chasing, you know, a lot of paperwork. When you opt out, you're still giving choice to the family, which you must give, but you're also, it's going to be fewer people in general that choose to opt out. So it's a less tracking. There's less tracking that has to happen. But again, you know your community best. You know what's worked in your schools best. I just need you to know parents should know that this is part of our plan. And right now, in the midst of this reset that we're all in, it's a great time to throw this piece in here in an effort to support your students' social, emotional, and mental health. We are introducing mental health screeners to take the pulse of our campus and design programs that are supportive of the needs of our campus. Boom. I don't know very many parents that are going to get upset by that kind of language and that kind of purpose. But a parent, one, knows this is coming. Two, I have choice in my student participating. And three, why? The concept of why. Think of it from your perspective. How many times have you been told to do something and in the back of your mind, you're like, but why? Like, all I want to know is why I have to. I'm going to do it, but tell me why. So give families that courtesy of the why. If you follow those steps and you include those three things, your families aren't going to fight back. Many of them are hungry and desperate for the help anyways. And by you taking that off their plates, they feel better. They feel that relief. And so, again, we're in a real great time where families are more open than they've ever been before because they've also lived through this trauma by then for the last 6 months. And so if there ever was a good time, it is now. It is in this reset that we explore some of this work. I just talked about that. Okay, so like I said, we have to kind of bring in the parents. We have to bring them in. They need to be a part of this. But we also, these are the steps that, schools can do to prepare the families. And I'm not going to go over them here because you guys can read them. But I just kind of mentioned all the little pieces to think about, and I put them here as well for you so that you know what is our parent approach to this. How are we going to prepare them? We can't just drop these like little bombs on parents. It's kind of got to be a slow roll a little bit. We are working on our mental health plan for next year. These are some of the thoughts we're thinking about. And then boom, here's our plan. Give them that time to read, to process, to have an opinion, and it's going to be better received. And that's what we want. We want that buy-in. So just like the buy-in we have to have from our parents, we need the buy-in from our staff. Y'all, sometimes the staff buy-in is the hardest one. You already know the battles. How many battles do we fight with educators who don't feel like they should have to run, the SEL curriculum through their classrooms? It's a tremendous battle that we fight. And so I'm going to remind you again, we are in a wonderful opportunity of a reset where we can get more of our staff on board with what we're doing and why this is important. In some cases, those of you, and I always worked in large schools, this is not, again, the work that one counselor can do, or even 2 counselors, or even 6 counselors in the larger schools. Sometimes it may be teachers that are going to help us with these screeners, or special ed department will help us with the screeners. And I know, there are touchy things, when we start getting other departments involved. But the kicker is that this is a holistic collaboration between all the entities in our school. Because one person cannot carry this work, it's going to be more important now than ever to build these teams that can support and work through all of these processes. But just like parents want to know why, and parents, want to have choice, so do teachers. And I think sometimes we take that away, or we don't acknowledge it, and then they feel unheard, and now they don't want to work with us, or they kind of carry this chip on their shoulder. And I get it. I have been in situations where, I'm told to do something, but given no background knowledge, no support. And in my mind, we always called those the program of the month or the program of the year, that was constantly changing. And so we have to talk about how this works in our greater plan, and how it's going to support everybody. Okay, what are the supports from the educator perspective? Right away, both us in the counseling world are going to be like, a decrease in misbehavior, more peace in the classroom. Like, who doesn't want that? Who wants a class, who doesn't want a class that, can cope better or can be supported best, or, can actually, get through the lessons because we don't have this chronic misbehavior. And again, not all behavior is a misbehavior. It's a manifestation of the stress, and the trauma and the grief that kids are going through. But our teachers don't know that. They have just now started to add some of a course in some of that mental health, and the mental health piece for our educators that are in prep programs to be teachers. Just now, y'all, our administrator programs have zero, I will repeat, zero information on mental health, trauma, grief. None of that is found within the administrative master's degree program. None of that. I have some great colleagues that are professors as well, and they invite me every semester to come out and teach their future principals about that stuff. And you'd be amazed. I mean, I'm sitting there teaching them and they're like, I had no idea. And I'm like, yes, yes. And so we have to teach. We have to advocate. Advocacy is part of our ethics with our profession. So take that time to show how this can impact positively their classrooms. And no, not everyone is going to buy in. I have gone very few places where there's 100% buy-in, but the more people that buy in, the greater change that we're going to see. And that buy-in starts from the top. Start with your administrators, get them on board, and then it trickles down as you go. But here are just some strategies for, helping them buy into this. The key is going to be, how is this different than everything we've done before? And that's the challenge, and you have to ask yourself that. However, if we're being more intentional, if we're looking at this from a perspective of, now we know that almost 100% of our students and faculty have experienced some form of trauma during the last 6 months, that's a more powerful conversation. Detailing, what does trauma look like? We keep saying over the last 6 months, what does that look like? A lot of people that you talk and share this information with don't realize you're talking about them until you break it down and you tell them, this is what it looks like. Those of you that attended my training last week on staying sane during COVID, there were a lot of great slides in there that you could take and use for that purpose. How does stress impact you cognitively or behaviorally or physically? I had so many people after that session email me and say, I had no idea. Now, these are counselors. I had no idea that stress could manifest that way. So I know our educators don't see it either. I know our administrators don't see it. We have to educate them to see this. Okay, so the considerations that we need to think about. We have to analyze whatever existing data we have. Again, I know I'm using an ugly word, but if we're going to be strategic, if we're really going to make the change that we want to see, we've got to see what we already have in place. What is the data telling us now? Some of our districts or in our charters may not be that great in data, and that's okay. We got to start somewhere. If there's no data, there's no data. Okay, what did I say? This is a reset, and we're going to have an opportunity to start, all over again. The decision to engage in additional screening is based on the needs of the school. I can't tell you there's a one-stop shop for everybody. I wish that I could give one training and it's going to match for everyone. And that's just not, that's not how it works. All of you are so beautifully, uniquely different. and you each have your own issues. And so I don't have anything like that. You're going to have to kind of tailor it to your needs. But the behavioral team, I'll talk about the behavioral team a little bit more. We should be developing a behavioral team, a team that's going to oversee. So what's mandated by law right now? So right now we are mandated to have threat assessment teams. Y'all, how easily could we utilize that same threat assessment team to be a part of this team? Another mandate we have is the SHARS team. How easily could we make the SHARS team a part of this team? I am not about reinventing the wheel, and I am not about having one more team and one more meeting. The people that are already mandated to be in certain roles could easily add this to their repertoire and what they work with. Deidre, I see your question about how to stay sane. I will add it. I had to pull some of my videos from the website because we were running out of space. And so I'm actually making, or not me, my assistant Presley is making a YouTube channel with all of my videos because they're just too big to leave them in the state that they are. But I will go ahead and add it. Presley, I don't have that one posted. I don't have that presentation posted or that video. So Deidre, I'll send it to everybody since I referenced it in today's session. So everyone, you're gonna get a 2-for-1. You're gonna get mental health screeners and how to stay sane. I know a lot of you already have it, but delete it if you don't need it. Okay. So what we do have to talk about too is that ethical and legal considerations. And sometimes this has been the piece that has prevented people or discouraged people from really moving forward with screening in the past. I think now that TEA sees it as a valid tool, that changes everything, right? Because our leadership trusts TEA. And I super trust our mental health division that I've been working very closely with. And so again, we just have to be sure that we know, one, who can test. So do we need a particular certification level? And two, that we get the permission, whether it's an opt-in or an opt-out system, that we get the permission we need from the guardians or parents. And so really those are the biggest pieces of this ethical and legal considerations. And in the chart I'm about to show you, it gives you some more of that. And of course it gives you links to go and review. I'm not going to be able to release the actual chart yet because it's still in a draft form from TEA, but you're going to be able to see it and you're going to get a recording of this. And so you can go back and look at it and, you know, go to some of those sites and check it out. They've just asked me, you know, not to formally like send it out yet because it still may change a little bit. But they know that I'm giving this training and what I'm doing with it and what you all obviously can do and work with. So just keep in mind that I'm not going to be able to give you that chart in a minute. So I keep talking about this concept of those school-based behavioral health teams. You already have them. You do. I know you do because they are mandated by law. Some, again, came with the legislative changes that happened with Senate Bill 11 would be your threat assessment team. But your SHARS, your health committee, has been around for a long time since at least I can remember back 16 years ago, it was around. So those of you that have been, in this career and field much longer than that, I'm sure you also are aware that the SHARS is a committee that we've had mandated by law for a very long time, decades. And so we should repurpose some of those teams to get the leverage and work off the ground. And I know the counselor is often on all those teams. And so that's why I say we don't need one more team. Counselors, you don't have time for one more committee that you usually wind up leading. And so be a part of the team that's already there. Use them to deliver this, to work through this, to create that plan. But you have to have those conversations, and more so, you have to know what are the mandated teams in your campus and in your district. And that's a great place to start because I know what it's like to feel alone and trying to get the movements that we're trying to do here. Okay, so I've got a lot of pointers here, and I know it's a lot of words. For this one, I wanted to really give you some rich background research information, things to think through. Again, you're going to get an hour and a half credit for today's session, but we're only going to take about an hour for it. And so that extra time is really the time that you're taking to kind of look at these a little bit deeper, to think through your process. That's why I'm not reading every slide to you. One, you don't want me to. Two, I don't want to. And three, because your communities are so different and unique, you're going to pull different pieces of the work I've given you. So I've given you everything to take and make your own. What I will point out here is that sometimes there is a cost for screeners. That is another barrier I haven't really talked about. The ones that I'm going to go through today, or the one I'm really going to show you that I think is going to be, I don't want to call it the miracle screener, but it's the one that I'm leaning to. It's the one that I'm using for my recommendation for transition planning. It is free. It is easy to do. I had a great colleague, Astrid, I don't know if she's on here today, who did the Spanish translation for it, because the elementary didn't have a Spanish translation. All the other grade levels did. And I was like, that's going to be a problem. And so she went ahead and did that to help me out. And so that one is zero cost. But those are pieces that you have to look at when you're determining what we're going to use. Now, I will say, when we talk about money, because money is always a little sensitive, y'all, there have been significant increases in Title IV funds for mental health. So if you are trying to get a mental health program kind of off the ground, there has been a lot of money released for that. I think it's a matter of knowing where it is and who oversees it. Excuse me, I have been doing, yesterday I trained for hours talking, and so my voice is still a little raspy. So what I'm saying is there is money somewhere, and maybe you need to talk to the right person who oversees those funds to talk about what we're wanting to do here. TEA, Senate Bill 11, House Bill 18, all of those heavy hitters really have driven that funding piece to help support in the mental health arena. And so now is the time to just ask some questions. Hey, did we get any Title IV mental health funds? There were a lot of grant opportunities that your district could be a part of. And so, you know, ask your grant person, did we apply for any of those funds? Have we looked into those funds? If they don't know, you know, send them to me. I'll figure out, you know, where we are, where to get them connected. Remember, I'm your resource. I'm your middleman. You don't have to know it all, but start bridging those conversations, because you may have that money there, and it's being used, you know, for other ways. So find out, what do we have? And so cost can sometimes be a barrier, but we shouldn't let it completely keep us from exploring these options that are available. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize here, and now I'm gonna show you the draft version. Here it is. Here it is, and I'm gonna reduce that chat box. Okay, so currently as it stands, you are looking at the draft version of the 30 released mental health screeners that are approved and vetted through the TEA Mental Health Committee Division, for lack of a better word. So they sat down and looked at everything that was out there and what could be used from a school counselor, school perspective, okay? Because there are millions of screeners out there that require, you know, certain levels of certification, certain levels of training. And so they really wanted things that most of us would be able to do, or all of us would be able to do. And so the first screeners here, okay, the first screeners here address, it tells you here, okay, let me rewind, sorry, I got ahead of myself. It tells you the instrument name, which is the actual screener name itself. It tells you kind of its publication, you know, author and year. It tells us then the description of what we could measure. So in this case, and I know a lot of us, I remember when I was first an elementary school counselor, we used the Connors inventory all the time. You know, the teacher would get one, the parent would get one, and sometimes the counselor would get one. I want to say it was a three-piece, Connors was 3 pieces. And, you know, we use that to have some kind of data for the student to visit with their pediatrician. There was a cost for that. I think there still continues to be a cost, but it was a great scale. I had a lot of students that had a lot of great success. It helped our, you know, our physicians to have a little bit of data to work from when they were having those conversations about the ADD, ADHD. Here they also have the IO and OD behaviors in students. And so it gives you a little bit about what it is, your target population. So who are we asking to complete this work or this inventory, kind of the length of time that it would take, and then a link to the actual resources. So if you want to go read further about this, if you want to go, you know a little bit more about certification, I can tell you right now, the Connors was really any educator could do it. There was no certification requirement. There continues to be no certification requirement. Again, these great tools have been out here and we've used them, but now, you know, and we went away. So everything is like a pendulum in education. You know, we used it decades ago and then it swings back to the future. So all of these first ones really are in that ADHD, ODD, ODIO kind of concepts. I'm going to go slow so that you can come back and review the video if you want to go a little bit deeper into some of these. Then we go into kind of more of the emotional pieces. This is aggression and hostility, symptom checklist. I was exploring this one a little bit more, which was the social, academic, and emotional behavior risk screener, the SABRS. And so I went to this website a little bit earlier to check it out. I felt like it didn't give me everything I needed. So I think those are the pieces that TEA is saying it's not quite done yet. And so that's why, although you're going to see it on your screen, you're not going to get the actual copy of this until they release the portal, which will be more encompassing of everything that you need. But I need you to know these are your options, and these are things that we can use as we're building transition plans and thinking about going back for next school year. And so again, I'm going to go down kind of just slow for you to see some of these. And then I want to go down to the very bottom and I want to look at the free ones that I know are 100% free, and then I've already played with them. So, and for some other work that I'm doing for our transition planning work. So all of my July sessions have been posted. And so I haven't done a formal release of them yet, but that will be coming soon. But you're more than welcome to look on the ESC Region 11 website to see what's already out there. So again, I'm just kind of going slow because we're not going to be able to dig into all of them, but I want you to see kind of all the great stuff that's here. Several of these were substance abuse assessments. I'm like, yes, I would love to use something a little bit different than we only have kind of the reactive work with substance abuse. We don't ever look at the proactive, right? Like before we have the problem, how can we assess where kids are? And so that's what I'm trying to help us see, that we can be more proactive if we utilize some of these screeners to help gather that data. Okay. These are all anxiety screeners. Oh my goodness, y'all, we're struggling with the anxiety that our students are feeling with our own personal anxiety, or the anxiety that our educators are feeling. And so, here's some great screeners. Again, depression screeners. And I know when we use words like depression, depression, can be a clinical term. Remember, these are not diagnostic. These are just screening. So if we have kids that are having issues, this may be something we look at in that as a piece of the support, as a piece of the data, when we have those conversations with parents about their next steps and what other resources and supports they may need. Kind of think of it like when we meet with parents who their child has had suicidal ideation or self-harming behaviors. you know, we say if we've used some kind of risk inventory, if we've used whatever our data is, we talk about all those pieces to help them better understand. Same concept here. We use all of the pieces to help our families better understand why their student may need assistance that is outside of what the school can provide. Love, love, love the ACEs. ACEs will be built into some of the work we're doing in July, but ACEs is a great inventory, free, absolutely free, for us to do an easy scan on adults and students. I will say it's not going to be for our itty bitties. If you see there, it's 13 and up. But it's a wonderful tool, again, to develop that pulse, to determine the temperature of your campus. Okay, so here I'm going to talk about these and spend my last few minutes talking about the free and the resilience and strength-based assessments. Okay, so in all of the research that I've been doing in looking in the work for the future and the planning and the supports that I'm building for you for next month, resiliency continues to come up as one of the best indicators for determining the pulse of your campus. And so thankfully, they had a free resiliency and strength-based assessment here. And this is the one that we're going to go in a little bit deeper. And I'm actually going to copy this and send this piece to you, because I think that as a school counselor and as I think about the plans that are coming up the pike, I want you to have as much of this up front so that you can explore and determine, is this something that we're going to want to move forward with? So I am going to send you these pieces plus the Spanish translation for the elementary students. It is really great. I'm going to walk you through this because I want you to see kind of how you get access to this. Remember, I'm going to copy and paste this for you, so you're going to get this in your email. So when you go to that link, it's going to take you here, and you can read a little bit more on, you know, so the assessments begin for age 5, which is fantastic for kindergarten. So my elementary counselors, this is for you too. This is my favorite that really can go 5-12. I want to say that there were a couple up above that might be for age 4, but unfortunately there's just not a lot of for age 4. So if you scroll down to the bottom, it tells you a little bit more about what resilience is. It's going to say access. And so here it is, available for free for researchers, academics, and frontline staff to use. That's us. That's me and you. So all I did is you'll go here. You will complete this form. Y'all, it does not have to be fancy. I think I've completed the form like 3 times, just practicing different ways. I'm so surprised they haven't flagged me yet. But literally here in my project description, I just said determining ways to support students during post-COVID or during transition. Tell us about the participants you will use. Elementary students, middle school students, high school students. I said, you know, districts. How will the findings be used to develop a plan to support our students? That's it. You don't need like the educational mumbo jumbo. You put in 1 line of information and submit, and within 10 seconds, you get an email with the link that I have here. This link came to me in an email literally within 10 seconds of submitting that. And now, if you notice, it says download, okay? Because I've done the little form that they asked me to do, now I can download all the documents. And what I will do to help you, even though I'm gonna really encourage you to go in and play with this, I am going to download these for you and send them to you for the different age groups and the manual. So if you'll give me till the end of the day, I'll make sure everything's downloaded for you. And this is what it looks like. And so this screener, you would have the teacher, the counselor, whoever, your team, whoever you all decide is going to help support in this work, you would have them either read it to the student if they're younger, or if they're older, they can read it themselves. And this is what I really love about this, is I really have practiced with this one, is that it's got also the emojis. So it makes it so much clearer for our students, you know, especially our ones that may not be able to read very well. And so that's why when I went through, you know, I went through the majority of the screeners, but at the end of the day, everything pointing back to resiliency, everything, you know, is free here at this point. And the fact that, you know, my colleague Astrid was able to do the translation in Spanish for the elementary, I felt like these are just going to be the best of what I can give you right now as you're planning and looking forward to you know, approaching mental health in the upcoming school year. And so again, I mean, just very easy language, emojis, very, very conducive to the student learning, and comprehension, because we really want to have it where every student can participate. And I think most students are going to be able to read the emojis quite well. And so that's one piece of it. And then the other piece, so that's the child. And then this is the, this is called the person most knowledgeable version. So the child gets one, right? And then it can be either the parent or it can be the teacher. So it's whoever really knows that student best. If you don't get the parent response back, you know, we know chasing battles there, but for our teachers, and educators, you know, we can also be that role as well. It may be harder for some of our new students. It's not going to be without hiccups, but again, it's an easy system. Most parents will be able to do it. I like that there are no frowny face emojis. Yeah, you know, because I think no has like a negative connotation all the time. So it's nice that no doesn't have to be like sad or upset, because I think that throws off kids too. Great point. So anyways, these are available in English and Spanish. I will send those to you as well. I'm going to download everything for you and send it, but I'm going to highly, highly encourage you to go and do it yourself, to read through it, to look at the manual, to just kind of get a better gauge on how to really deliver this kind of work. But you have to know it exists to know it's a tool and a resource. And there will be tons of tools and resources coming from TEA by August, but y'all, we know, and that's what I've been telling them. I love them to death, but I'm like, yo, we need it now. By August, we're already running wild. And so my hope is that, you know, they're hearing me. At the very least, they're releasing things to me that I'm releasing to you to help support you in the work. So it's all work in progress. We're all working through this together, but I'm really excited about the depth and the work that they are providing for us to use and to support us in this. So absolutely, you know, I really believe in my heart of hearts, and what I'm developing to go mass wide to our regional folk here in 11 is based off this resiliency model. I think out of all the other ones, and yes, the other ones have a distinct purpose, this is the one that's really going to give us that pulse and temperature that we need to know what kind of supports and resources to provide kids. If kids are high on the resiliency scale, then we know they can bounce back and be okay. But if the majority of our school is low in resiliency, okay, it's not, that gives us an idea that it's not enough. We've got to do more. But sometimes we just throw things out there because we want to try this initiative or this strategy or this, and that is not the way that we need to look and approach this work. So I will be sharing these resources with you. I will be sharing the presentation for you to have that background, research-based knowledge, to have those educated conversations with your leaders and your teachers. I will also reshare the stress and coping presentation from last week, because I know I referenced several pieces from there this week. And then I will download all of these documents and send them to you as well. So this is recorded, so obviously go back, look at what else is there, look for what else is there. And, you know, at that point, you're just looking at what I provided you, you know, you're not necessarily, I didn't necessarily release a whole document there. So, but trust me, it's coming. And I want you to be prepared, and I want your brains to start simmering and thinking about the work to come. Lori, I don't have a sample letter for parents yet, but I do love writing letters. So let me simmer on that one for a little bit. If you'll email me, Lori, that'll help me keep that request at the forefront of things, and I can kind of mull over it in my mind a little bit more and maybe provide everyone a sample. But just email me though, because when it sits in my email, then it becomes an actionable item, and I'm more likely to remember it, focus it, and get it done, hopefully this week. So thank you everyone for coming again today. I hope this gave you a little bit of a taste. Remember, we're still just dipping our toe in this work. And I didn't want to go like super crazy deep, because we can get lost in the weeds. And so I'm really trying to help you focus on what we need to consider, and what, some of the resource tools are, and to release you from the barriers and let you know we can use these tools in our work. But thank you for coming. And I hope to see you tomorrow. We've got another session carrying about the care. It is different from my COVID session, same in COVID last week. I did get that question earlier. Everything is usually uniquely different. And then don't forget, we still have yoga on Friday. And I'm about to email about this, but my yoga session is going to be set up in a kind of level 1, level 2 system, because I've had a lot of people that wanted to go deeper or use their mats. And so the first 30 minutes are going to be level 1, kind of your just easy chair exercises, moving the body, strategies that you can also do with kids. And then those of you that want to continue and stay and do a little bit more extended work, if you want to bring your mats, join us. It's going to be great. Remember, we've got to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And all of the strategies you learn can definitely be used with students as well. So have a great rest of your week. And like I said, I'll stay on a few more minutes, and then send you all of this follow-up information. Give me until about 5. That's kind of my pattern of behavior. So give me till about 5 to get back to you on all this. And I will, please reach out for anything that you need.